Well, I think that's been under assault, the idea that you should have pride in your country, that's kind of a fascist thing, or that you should, what would you say, have respect for your founding principles. That idea is sort of under assault, the idea that this is a corrupt patriarchy and that it's an oppressive state. And it's like, well, it's corrupt, except compared to every other system that's ever existed.
Right, we're doing a lot better than so many.
Oh, well, yeah, and the degree to which American ideals, but Western ideals more generally, have made their manifestation throughout the world is producing a massive increment in living quality everywhere.
Yeah.
There's lots of, look, it's not like our systems don't have problems. They have problems, like all systems. But as far as systems go, man, we're running on 8 cylinders.
Yeah.
We're doing all right. And so...
yeah, suddenly it's like we're doing so badly.
Yeah,
and I love how suddenly it's happened. Like all of a sudden, everything is horrible. And really, when you get out into the world, most things are fine. I'm noticing, especially in America, it's a lot of the media is just saying that things are bad. And then it's a lot of people sitting at home sharing that information.
Yeah, well, I think
when you go outside, it's not that way.
Well,
that people are generally being pretty decent to each other.
I think part of what's happening is that as the classic media die under the onslaught of this technological pressure, especially television, because television has had it.
Oh, it's so it's too efficient. It's efficient to the point where it's not effective, I think.
Well, and the bandwidth is so narrow and it's so heavily advertised, and you get turned into a commodity on TV. No matter how good your character is, it tends to turn you into a commodity because of the narrow bandwidth. And so I think what's happening as the media, and of course the print media, is just facing competition on every possible front, right? Because so many people have access to writing and sharing. Well, exactly. There's nothing special about being a journalist anymore, essentially.
And it's jumped the shark in the past year. Like it's fascinating how quickly all of that just hit almost rock bottom.
Oh, yeah, man. It's unbelievably fast. Well, that just shows you how powerful the technologies are. But, I think as the traditional media dies, they get desperate for attention. They get all clickbaity. So they exaggerate the polarization and the catastrophe. The best example of that is there's way more coverage of violent crime than there was 25 years ago, but there's half as much violent crime. Like in the 5 major measures of violent crime have fallen by 50% in the last 25 years. Like who knows that? No one. Oh, it's dangerous. The streets are dangerous. We're all at each other's throats. It's like, no, we're not. It's safer now in the United States than it's ever been. It's safer now than it was in the early 60s. You'd never guess that.
Well, and it's funny. I was just back. I went back to my hometown, which is a small town in Louisiana. And you said you're from a similar. We just figured out before we started about 4,000 people size town. And I was asking some of the teachers at my junior high school. I said, "Well, what is racism like here now?" Because my town was just poor black and poor white mostly. And she goes, "You know what?" And this is a girl who'd went to school with me and who's now the principal there. She goes, "You'd be surprised." She goes, "It's gotten so much better." She's like, "We just don't have, we definitely have some differences in class for sure still, but we don't have as much just outright racism anymore." And that was, and for that to happen, like in my town, like I grew up in a town, there was a lot of there was a lot of, when I was growing up, there wasn't even any black wealth. I mean, there was like the Dallas Cowboys, and I think like Eddie Murphy were the only wealthy black people that you even heard about in the whole universe. And then now, it's a lot different in America. Like you can go to Atlanta where you get to see like a lot of black prosperity, and some of that's just taken time. Yeah. But I wondered sometimes, like, man, will some of these smaller towns, places where I'm from, will they ever be able to get some of that, that guttural, like, vulgarity of old racism, of old practices out of our system, out of our DNA, and to hear that firsthand from people that I trust, teachers at this school, that's getting better. It kind of like, it was like, wow, because that's crazy. Because if you click on anything online, everybody's, killing each other over racist ideals. Yeah. So yeah, it's just the world that I live in, that I see, is a lot much better than the world that's online. And I think people are starting to realize that.
Yeah, I think they are too.
People are awakening so fast.